The Last of Us Part 3 is inevitable. With Druckmann already saying he has an outline for the script, this game is just waiting to be released. Part 2 ends with a pretty big cliffhanger. Ellie is seen walking away from the house alone, one of her biggest fears, while Lev and Abby have made it to Catalina Island and it's inferred they've found the Fireflies. What I want to talk about is what happens next. This micro podcast is going to focus on my theory on where Part 3 is going to go. It's not going to be too in depth, talk about characters or anything like that. It's just going to give a brief outline of where I think Part 3's story could go. To start, when we play as Ellie in the epilogue, she's wearing Dina's bracelet. She wasn't wearing it when she went to Santa Barbara, and she has it back on her now. I think Ellie went back to Jackson first before she went back to the house, and maybe she met Dina there. Some may say that Dina and Ellie are over, but why would Ellie go back to the house then? She obviously wanted to see Dina, so I feel like they might have reunited already. And maybe even Ellie going back to the house now might have happened a month or two after she's already been back in Jackson. I also believe that when Ellie arrived back in Jackson, she lied about killing Abby, and she'll say that she did. And this is where my theory for Part 3's story will happen. Abby is obviously not dead and is going to come back, and their paths will cross again, which will set off the story. I think Abby and Lev's dynamic will be similar to Joel and Ellie. Abby already plays a lot like Joel and Lev a lot like Ellie. And I don't think that in this game there will be such a big time jump like from Part 1 to Part 2. Maybe a year or two to account for the time to travel between Jackson and Catalina Island, and they've reached the Fireflies again and Abby now has a new hope. And also, Abby knows where a cure is. Well, she has an idea. She knows Ellie's alive anyway. So I think Abby will lead a team of Fireflies to come get Ellie. It seems like a very obvious option considering the way they left the game, but I think this is where the story is going to take place, with this dynamic between Abby and Ellie, and is actually killing Ellie worth a cure to save the world that's already so far gone. No amount of cure will stop the Seraphites or stop the cannibals, and that's where I think this story is going to go. It's going to mess around with the politics as well of the vaccine. The Fireflies are obviously going to be very powerful if they have such a cure, you know. So I believe Abby will lead a team of Fireflies to come get Ellie. And then we have a dilemma where, does Ellie want to die for the cure now or does she not? Maybe in the years since she's made back with Dina, she realizes that life is actually worth living and is happy that Joel saved her, and she won't want to be taken by Abby. But I feel like that's kind of unlikely, so I do feel that Ellie will want to give her life up for the cure and will have to travel with Abby and Lev and maybe a team of Fireflies from Jackson to another Firefly base somewhere in America, and it will kind of mirror the events of the first game with how Joel and Ellie traveled across America, but this time with Abby, Lev and Ellie. It will explore that dynamic of a love between two strangers. Maybe Abby and Ellie can, talk out their differences and understand each other and why they did what they did. I think Abby will have that love with Lev and understand then how Joel and Ellie were, why Ellie was so upset that Joel got killed. And then they will end that cycle eventually with Ellie giving her life up for the cure. Where the story could take a turn is that the Fireflies then have a plan to keep the vaccine for themselves. They don't want to distribute the vaccine. They want to have that power play. They can even then use the infected against human enemies because they can't get sick. And then Abby will notice this, and instead of letting Ellie die for the cure, she'll do what Joel did and save her. And that's how the trilogy will end. At the end of the day, the Fireflies are still a militia group, and the politics of war are very complicated. And any advantage they could have could mean the difference between life and death. So to summarize, I think Part 3 will have Abby coming to get Ellie, then realizing that the Fireflies, and Abby realizes that the Fireflies aren't actually looking out for humanity, but just themselves in a power move to take over America, to take over their area, to take over their territory. She stops Ellie from giving her life up for the cure, and it mirrors the first game. This isn't a particularly in-depth story idea. It's just a thought on how I think the final game might go. One thing for sure is this is definitely not the last time we are going to see these two characters, and not the last we're going to see of The Last of Us. Thanks a lot for listening to this podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and to listen to some of the last episodes I posted. I've talked about the infected, the leaks, an introduction. So if you're interested in more, just go back onto my channel and take a look for yourselves. But anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.